Hello and welcome back to PNP Kids. I'm so happy you're here with me today, and we have some special book to read today. It's kind of a parallel to the one that we read last week, if you got to listen to that. And if you didn't, you can always go back and listen to that about the wine, right? About the grapes becoming the wine, becoming the body and becoming the blood of Christ. And so this one is actually about the bread that we're going to read today. But let's start by singing the hymn for the feast that we're celebrating and remembering Theophany for this whole season. It's such a joy to have the holy water and to have our homes blessed and to receive all the joy of the new life that Jesus gives to us. So let's sing the song for the feast, okay? When thou, O Lord, was baptized in the Jordan, worship of the Trinity was made manifest. For the voice of the Father bore witness to thee, calling thee his beloved Son. And the Spirit in the likeness of a dove confirmed the truth of his word. O Christ our God, who hath appeared and enlightened the world, glory to thee. Okay, let's begin. This is the story called The Woman and the Wheat. And again, it's by a friend of ours named Jane Meyer, and she has many books if you look her up. And she gave us the permission to read this one for PNP Kids, and she wanted us to share it with you. So get settled and sit cozy and look at the wonderful illustrations in this book as well as I read, okay? There once was a woman who planted some wheat. She worked in the heat of the late summer, wiping her brow as she sowed the seeds, and on the lips were the prayers of all sorts, for the rain and the sun and the moon and the wheat and the bread that was to come. The heavens heard her prayer, and the rain fell fast, showering the freshly turned soil of the field. The wheat sprouts grew in the cool autumn sun, and the soft new leaves stood tall. The woman bent down near the long blinks of green and marveled at God's sweet gifts. The days grew short, and the dark grew long, and winter took hold on the land. Then God sent snow, which fluttered to the ground, and the winter wheat lay its leaves on the earth. And the woman stood by and watched the wheat as it bowed and bent to sleep. Winter was long, but spring did come, and the earth warmed up like a bundled babe. The wheat stalks stretched their stems to the sky, and they grew with every new turn of the sun. Let's stretch our stems high to the sky like that. Okay, we'll be like the wheat. The woman too spent time in the field, swaying with the wind and weeding the ground, and on her lips were the prayers of all sorts for the rain and the sun and the moon and the wheat and the bread that was to come. When the wheat was red and ready, at the tip the woman sang a harvest song. She called all of her family, and her friends helped too, and they brought in the wheat, working long and hard till the moon showed its face in the sky. And on her lips were prayers of all sorts for her friends and the sun and the moon and the wheat and the bread that was to come. The heavens heard her prayer for a bright, warm day to dry the wheat in the sun. So off to the miller did the wheat go next, where a large stone wheel turned around and around. The wheel moved the stones, and the stones ground the wheat as streams and puffs flowed into bags, and the wheat turned into flour. On a windy morn, with a fire in the hearth, the woman said a prayer for the day. With a splash of water and a shake of salt and a sprinkle of yeast and a bowl full of flour, the woman brought the dough to life. She swayed to and fro like a long stalk of wheat, working the dough with her strong, warm hands. And the dough grew soft and smooth. On her lips were more prayers of all sorts, for the rain and the sun and the moon and the wheat, for her friends and her family, and the miller and his mill, and the bread that was to come. The dough rose high in the warm wooden bowl with the life of the land and the air bursting forth. Then the woman pressed the dough and began again, kneading and singing while she worked. The smell of the dough and the wood and the fire filled their simple space with a holy grace. Out came the stamp from its box on the shelf, the stamp of the lamb, the stamp of the bread. The woman pressed the stamp with all of her might and sealed it deep in the heart of the dough. The woman sighed and then trimmed the dough, and the fire called loudly to the bread. The dough sighed too, and it grew, and into the fire it went. The woman warmed her hands and dozed a bit, while the soft rising dough was baked by the flames. In a bright green scarf did the 5 loaves go down the road to the country church. The woman sang the prayers of the closing day, and she offered her bread as a gift. The bread was cut, it was broken and pierced, and one sacred piece was the lamb. The love of the prayers and the myrrh and the cloth encircled the bread while the saints looked on. Then the priest held the broken bread in his hands and bathed the bread in wine. The woman of the wheat looked on. She had on her lips prayers of all sorts for the rain and the sun and the moon and the wheat and the Christ that was to come. With the Amen said, the heavens swished to the earth, and a sweet, sweet voice rang true, and the angels flew, and the saints sang too, and the holy bells rang, and a holy wind rushed through the room. Then the woman of the wheat came near to the cup, and she bowed her head low. She opened wide, and the love filled her mouth, and she thought of the wheat, and she thought of the love. She kissed the cup, and she prayed a prayer, and the joy grew loud in her soul. And the joy grew loud in her soul, and the joy grew loud in her soul. The end. The Woman and the Wheat. Okay? This book is actually out of print, so you might only be able to get this one as well if you order a used copy online. But let me tell you about the making of the holy bread, the prosphora. You can also learn to do that, and maybe you already know and you help your mom or your grandma or a friend in the church or your godmama to make the holy bread. And it's a very, very special and holy act that you can do to offer prayers for those that you love that especially need prayers. And then you give your list to the priest, and he'll read those at the most high time of all of our life in the church, when he is standing before the holy altar and asks for the Holy Spirit to descend and to change the bread and the wine to the body and blood of Christ. Okay, so that's a big gift that we get to do. All of us can participate in making the prosphora if you learn how. In fact, that's what I'm off to do. I'm going home to make the prosphora for tomorrow's liturgy. I am so happy you joined me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time at PNP Kids. Have a blessed day.
Patristic Nectar Publications presents The Holy Trinity, an 11-lecture series by the late Father Thomas Hopko, former professor of dogmatic theology and dean of St. Vladimir's Orthodox Theological Seminary. Revered for his zealous and forthright preaching, Father Hopko delivered these lectures in February 2001 to the clergy of the Antiochian Orthodox Christian Archdiocese of North America, delving into the Orthodox Church's dogmatic teachings on God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. March 18th, 2024 marks the 9th anniversary of Father Hopko's repose. May his memory be eternal. For these and other available titles, please visit our website at patristicnectar.org.